Hello, web page development students, and welcome to tutorial number 9. This is our third part of our CSS tutorial series where we are going to continue to position items on the page. And your first page should look something like I have up here. This is what it should look like at this point. So I want to go into code view, and I want to be on our CSS style sheet, and I want to show you what you should have on your CSS style sheet up until this point. First, you need this reset code in here that we copied from my passouts to reset all the browsers that you're going to work with. Then you're going to use this global code, which we're going to use here momentarily. You should have some things for headings, text elements, as well as images and lists. And where we're going to focus on are these containers. We're going to focus on this wrapper container for the wrapper div and all these other containers that refer to other divs over here in the source code. And just so your source code is like mine, you should have your wrapper div, you should have a logo div, and you should separate your social media icons and have a social media icons div with all of your icons for Facebook, RSS, Twitter, and YouTube. You should have a top nav div with your navigation links in there. You should have a slider div for your banner, as well as a content div for your information, as well as the right side div and then your footer div. So those are the divs that we're going to work on for right now, that we'll be working on. So let's go back into our CSS that we're going to style, and the very first thing that I want to style is this wrapper. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to determine the width of this wrapper. And a typical width in web design is 900 pixels. So we're going to make that 900 pixels. We're going to give it a margin of 0 from the top to the bottom, as well as auto on the side. And then that's all we're going to do for right now. And I want to refresh this code and go into design view, and you can see that it automatically centered it. Margin refers to the outside of your web page. So oops, there's no margin. I'm going to make this a little bit, making it too big, too small. There, that's a little bit better. There's no margin on the top to the bottom yet, but we wanted to center it left to right on the page. That's where that auto came in. It automatically centered our page, but we don't know kind of where that ends, and we're going to have to determine that. But that's a little bit different than padding, which is the inside, refers to things on the inside elements, not on the outside of your web page. So let's go back into code view, and one of the things that we need to do in code view is we need to find what that outside margin is like and kind of delineate between the two. So I'm going to go into body, and I'm going to give it a background color that I just pasted in there. I'm going to give it a background color of this E8DDCA, and I'm going to refresh and go back into design view, and you can see, okay, well, I don't want everything like this beige color. I kind of want this part at least white. So we need to go in and we need to do a couple of things to determine that. So let's go back into our code view, and let's scroll back down into our containers, and let's give this a background color of white. And that's FFF is white. So we want to make sure that we give it a background color of white, and we always want to end it. And then we want to make sure that we put in an outer wrapper, because we have to delineate between the inside of our page and the outside of our page. So we're going to make this the outside of our page. and we're gonna copy this, tab this over, and we're gonna copy this code, and we're gonna give it an outer wrapper. But we do that by going into our source code at first, and we want to make sure that we put in our source code, that we go into the body, and then we put in that div, and we want to make sure that we have a div ID equals quotes outer. Oh, that's not going to work because I misspelled that. Okay, and then the wrapper, and then we want to close it off with our ending div tag, and we always want to refresh, and we want to save. Now let's go and look at it in design view, and then there we have the difference between our outer wrapper and our inner wrapper, and that's going to be the background of our page. But there are a couple of other things that we want to format in this tutorial. So I'm going to go back into code view, and I want to go through and I want to do a couple of other things. So I want to be in my style sheet, and then I want to go into the logo. I always want to start, actually I'm going to move these over in here and like kind of start them all at the same place. Then that way it's not going to run into my social media icons container. And then I want to give my logo a margin of 30 pixels, and then I want to get 0. I don't want to, I just want to give it a top to bottom margin. I want to float it, and I want to float it left, because if I don't, actually let's look here, and I'm going to just refresh. I'm going to go into design view, and oh, it didn't give it to me yet, so I need to continue, because if I click on split view and see and click up there's that, but why can't I see, why does it look like it doesn't do anything? So I want to go back over here into code view, and I want to go back down to where we need to be, which is in our container. I want to float it. I want to float it left, because then that way we can see what it's going to look like. So I'm going to float left, and then I'm going to end it, and then I'm going to refresh, and you can see that it's given me that space between those two divs. And at this point, we want to do a couple of other things before we end this tutorial. We want to go over into the social media icons, and I'm just going to show you how to type the code in for this. We want to float those, and we'll look at it in split view so we can see it. We want to float them. We want to float those right. Make sure you use a semicolon. Okay. And then after that, we want to continue to do our social media icons. And we want to go ahead and we want to do them for our unordered list items. And actually I'm going to move all of these over here and tab them down one more set. And this is a capital, so I don't know if that is going to mess anything up. So I want to do my curly bracket, and I want to display them inline and end my thing. And then finally I want to do my social media cons, and then I'm going to do my unordered list, and I want to give it, tab that in, I want to give it a margin, and I want to make it top, and I'm going to give it a 40 pixels, and end that. Oh, that's the wrong bracket. And then finally, I want to move my top nav over here, and I want to make sure that we clear both. And then I'm going to refresh this page. Actually, I'm going to go over into Design View to see what we have, and then I'm going to refresh our page. Actually, when I went into Design View, it refreshed it as well. So you can see that if I go to Live View, that it's moved your social media icons down, and it's made them inline or across. It's giving you some margin in here, and you have almost everything going on, except for the last thing we need to do is we need to give it some margin on the side. We forgot to go ahead and do that. So I want to go into my code view, and I want to go back into my outer div that's wrapping around, so determining between the outer and the inner div. I'm going to save that. I'm going to give that I'm going to make that a little bit larger. I'm going to give it a 960 pixels, and you can see that it has gone ahead and it has given it some additional space up there. So if your divs are all correct, it should look like this. If they're not, you can see that I apparently have some issues with this div down here with my content div, so I'm going to probably have to go back and look at that. We'll need to go ahead and fix it. This is the end of tutorial number 9. Good luck as you continue to style your page, and we'll continue in the next tutorial to style some more of our index page.